With the floating video player on iOS, you can keep watching the live stream as you read other news. World premiere trailers. And the biggest
Dobra, mamy jakieś miejsce na wszczepy.
Sign up for notifications and we'll alert you.
Robot spider about the size of a dog? O, dobra, czyli mamy też petów. Okej.
Posłuchaj mnie. Jeszcze jedna kwestia. Czy to, że Cyberpunk nie przypomina faktycznie w ogóle Wiedźmina, czy to jest właśnie plus czy minus?
Co mówisz?
Czy to, że Cyberpunk w ogóle nie przypomina Wiedźmina, to jest właśnie plus czy minus?
Plus.
No jest coś zupełnie innego.
Kiedy?
Cyberpunk.
Czekaj, bo...
Że Cyberpunk. No dobra.
Tak.
Że się tak bardzo różni od Wiedźmina. Czy to jest dobre czy złe?
Ciężko, żeby się kurwa nie różnił, bo to jest coś zupełnie innego.
No, ale jednak mogliby zrobić dużo skakowaczy przez Wiedźmina, ale to nie robią.
Kurwa, no jeszcze nie ma.
O, widzicie, było Red Dead Redemption.
Może coś, że w sumie pokażą ten.
Exclusive insights from developers, and a whole lot more. NVC Live brings you IGN's Nintendo podcast up close and personal. Engage with other viewers, ask our NVC hosts your burning questions, and become a part of the show. Don't miss out. Find everything first on IGN.com.
IGN Live at E3 2018 is presented by Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp in theaters July 6th.
Welcome back to IGN Live at E3, the best place to check out your new favorite games. I know for a lot of you, one of those games is Anthem. Let's see how BioWare pulled off one of the hits of the big show in this exclusive behind-the-scenes look you'll only see right here.
Halo?
Halo, miał być Cyberpunk.
Halo,
to nie jest Cyberpunk. Oj, znowu coś przedstawili?
No ta fajnia się jebła, czekaj.
No, miał być Cyberpunk 2077, no ej, come on. Znaczy do 30 jeszcze 2 minuty, także może zaraz jeszcze będzie.
The fantasy of being an armored hero in an amazing, mysterious world. And we're designing the world to be so dangerous that it requires you to wear these power suits that give you superhuman ability.
Anthem is a world without mass production. We've discussed it as a world without microchips. Each javelin is a piece of handcrafted technology. But you are still not your javelin, you are a pilot. So what that means is that you can get into different javelins and play different roles depending on your needs, your desires, the people that you're playing with.
So on one side we have the Colossus. The Colossus is a heavy hitter. The Colossus is supposed to take damage. The Colossus is the tank. Then we've got the Ranger. The Ranger is more of your multi-class. The Ranger's fairly nimble, fairly agile, but can also pack a punch. We've also got the Storm. The Storm is more of a magic user. It's very powerful, very glass cannon-y. You'll be able to dish out a lot of damage, but we won't be able to take it. And of course, then we have other exos. Not that we want to talk about right now. However, they will complement this group in the best way possible.
It's a unique experience that affords us all kinds of things that we can do in the gameplay and in the storytelling that you couldn't do otherwise.
When a player picks up Anthem, I want them to feel like they're a hero. I want them to feel like there's something larger than life, that with these javelins, they can kind of overcome the danger of the world. And I want them to be able to do it easily. I don't want to put a lot of friction in place where they have to, find different people to play with and have different groups and timelines for them to play. I want them to be able to get into the game easily and really start to realize what it has to offer and then become addicted and then play forever.
You are leveling up your pilot, so your pilot is getting better at flying javelins, but then the really deep, long-term, meaty part of progression is the javelin itself. Each of those gives you tons of opportunity to get better gear, better weapons, and really customize and personalize what it looks like and the way that it plays to really suit your play style.
The locomotion, verticality, flying, running, swimming, jumping, all of those advanced movements are key to what the experience of Anthem is about. All the different exos perform in a different way, but one thing is consistent: they can all fly and they can all move through the world in a fairly exotic way.
It really is what makes the world so much bigger, Because it's not just what you traverse over land, it's that you might fly over something, but under that are many cliffs and caves, and then there's a lake down below, and under that are caverns. And the sense of that verticality and the density of exploration, combined with just the fact that it's fun. It's amazing to be able to jump off whatever height you want, fly, dive, go straight into the water. It feels great. And then it starts to unlock really interesting other ways to solve problems, both in just how you get around the world, but also how you fight and take on enemies.
That would be a Titan. This is bad.
So some of your technology is based upon bits of this shaper technology, but really humanity doesn't understand how this works. If you imagine that a construction site that was abandoned, and there are bulldozers scattered around that are turning themselves on and wandering around the construction site periodically. They're machines of construction, but if they're just random, they're not really doing helpful things. So as a freelancer, your job is to go and interact with these machines and try to shut them down so they can't do too much harm. This is technology that is millennia beyond what humans understand. So really a lot of what freelancers are dealing with is just trying to shut this stuff off.
What if you had a world in the spirit of like a fantasy setting that was created by gods, but the gods vanished before they even finished?
The world itself is dangerous. The shaper artifacts are out of control. They've created nasty creatures which want nothing more than to take you down.
So when you're out in the world, you see these big machines, and periodically these turn on and interact with the world in relatively unpredictable ways, causing mutations and storms and other cataclysms that reshape and change the world in very large, explosive ways. But a lot of your long-term interaction with the world will be about uncovering pieces of that mystery and putting together a story for yourself.
Part of this is the unique factions and groups which have kind of formed up over the time that humans have been here in this world. So we have the Sentinels, we have the Freelancers. The Freelancers are a group which is holding humanity and basically helping them to survive in this world.
You are more like a fire jumper. You go out into the world to deal with very acute threats that you can deal with out in the world and serve as protectors, but in very specific, pointed ways.
Each freelancer group has a crew, and each crew has multiple roles on it. Your crew in particular has a Strider pilot. A Strider is your remote base. It's your mobile base. It's for you and your team to basically get out into the open world, resupply, rearm, and get back into the adventure. We have the Scar. They have a tie back to the Shapers, but we don't necessarily want to go there yet. You certainly learn about it in the story.
There's another human faction called Dominion, which serves as the primary antagonist over the core story of Anthem.
They desperately want something related to the Shapers. They desperately want to go after one of the relics. It's important and it's crucial to the survival of them. Suffice to say that they're principled and direct in what they want, and they'll stop at anything to kind of get it. All these different groups have different interplay and politics and interworkings amongst them. And when you play the game, you'll find out exactly how they all connect. There is no good and bad, it's just different shades of gray.
So one of the things that when you look through BioWare's more than 20 years of game development that is common amongst all of our games is really a focus on characters that have personalities and that you interact with. And we really want to make sure that that remains in Anthem.
It's super important that it is a new world to discover, and that's one of the things that people have loved about Mass Effect and Dragon Age, is that you can actually feel like you're living in these worlds and learning more about them, and the world kind of expands over time.
You know, we've learned a lot from the past projects that BioWare's done and some of our contemporaries when building Anthem. I think one of the biggest things is that many players, do want a sense of story and characters and narrative. So building a game that still focuses on a really tight narrative, characters that you can love, that you can learn about, story, lore, backstory, all that stuff in the context of an action-filled shooter, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways, and it's one of the things that we're trying to hit with the most energy on the project.
So while you're out in the open world with other player characters, like other people playing the game, you're not interacting as much. But when you're back at Fort Tarsis, that's a place where you're able to interact more deeply with characters and have that experience that's really core to what I think makes BioWare BioWare.
So in the case of Anthem, the idea was, you know, what if we could create a place that was a whole new world to explore, and it was built with mystery, it was built with the idea of constant change and disruption and different things happening in the world, but also where, if you wanted to, you could go on this adventure with your friends. And that required us to build the game in a different way than we had before, so that you have the option to play on your own or play with friends in this world that you're discovering.
Anthem is designed as a game that you play for a really long time. So the critical path story is designed to introduce you to the world, to introduce you to the factions, but a lot of this is about that long-term world conflict, where the world is unfinished, it's changing, and it's always providing a threat. Regardless of what's going on with the Dominion, the world itself is always dangerous. So when you're playing, you should always feel, even during the critical path, that there's a balance between the Dominion threat and then the world threat. And then as you transition into the Elder game, it becomes more and more about that world threat.
At BioWare, we create worlds of adventure, conflict, and companionship that inspire you to be the hero of your own story. Anthem is about giving you the experience of adventuring with your friends as armored heroes in a dangerous and mysterious science fantasy world.
So when we're trying to do storytelling in Anthem, there's two primary questions. Whose world are you in, and whose story is it? And what we've decided to approach this for Anthem is by saying that this is our world, this is a world that we share together, but it's my story.
We are consistent in what we see regarding the time of day, regarding the weather, unique and individual.
Tak, jeszcze tak do Anthem to, kurczę, no ja nie wiem co z tej gry wyjdzie, no niby nacisk na fabułę, ale jakby...
Jest tak podane w takiej formie niespotykanej, niecodziennej, że nie wiem, czy to odrzuci grać.
No ja też nie wiem, czy to w ogóle, czy to będzie miało sens. To ciężko jest tak stwierdzić, bo tylko zapowiedzieć, to trzeba będzie po prostu zagrać tym, że oni jeszcze mówią, że to trzeba będzie grać długo. Pytanie, jak będzie z tym, jak się przyjemnie będzie grało. Ja szczerze wam powiem, nie za bardzo lubię światy sci-fantasy, jak oni to ładnie określili. No nie wiem.
Ale wygląda zajebiście. Grafika jest naprawdę.
No, grafika to prawda. No, Frostbite.
One challenge with that, though, is if you can play with your friends, how does that not dilute the story that you're telling?
Fort Tarsis is the place where you can learn about characters, you can talk to different people, you can form relationships with them, you can understand their motivations, learn more about the world. So that is what you do in Tarsis, and that is not shared with any of your other friends. That also gives us the opportunity to make sure that we have consistency in choices and consequence, and we can show that in Tarsis. You can go on the mission, if it's a story mission, by yourself, if you absolutely want to. Or you can invite your friends directly. But then there's a third option.
Part of the core of making it a 4-player experience in its base design was making it so that matchmaking was as seamless as possible. Our map is actually where you do most of the matchmaking, so you're able to see what people in your friends list, your friends of friends list, your social graph are doing, and very easily jump into their experiences, experiencing things together, and looking for opportunities that way. The other thing is contracts. So when you're in the middle of a mission, you're able to essentially broadcast the fact that there's space in your party and have people seamlessly join in the middle and essentially just be another freelancer coming to the rescue.
If you want to stay with that person after the contract is done and continue the adventure with different missions and free play, you totally can. But you don't have to, and that's the important thing.
You know, we share in what's going on today in events and weather and some of the really dynamic stuff that we haven't even really talked about very much yet. Because of that structure, to me, I think it puts it in a different kind of genre than people have experienced before, where we're trying to pull off a bit of a magic trick where you actually get amazing story and connections with characters, but also you can go out into the world with your friend and agree that the world that you're seeing is the same, and it's truly a shared world. Anthem is super important to us as a studio. We've been working on this for many years, so we're very excited to get it out into the hands of fans and players. It really is part of a journey that we've been on in constantly evolving our games, and we do actually have some other teams working on things that are coming up next. We always look at it in terms of a portfolio. We're just being a little bit more focused now in making sure that we have an amazing launch of our next title, and that we really focus on doing a great job with that and coming through for players. And then once that is launched and out there, making sure that we are built so that we can service that title and keep up with it over many years, even as we build the next thing and the next thing.
Ja mam tylko obawę o tą historię, no, że to jednak przez ten cały element sieciowy... Nie.
No kurwa, co?
Ten gościów jeszcze wcześniej mówił, że zobaczymy Spidermana, później Cyberpunka. Teraz jakieś kurwa Lego, co? Czy coś
może
się
odśwież
zmieniło?
opis, może odśwież tego.
Opis się powinien odświeżyć, nieważne jak.
Tak? No widzisz kurwa czat? Widzisz czat?
Popatrzcie na czat.
Spójrzcie
O co
na
chodzi?
czat.
Jakie
Na
kurwa
czat.
Lego? Każdy tu jest dla Cyberpunka. Cyberpunk miał być 40 minut temu. Nadal go nie ma.
Fucking riot. Patrz.
That's what we doing.
Napisz wytyfy. 2 razy. I 3 wykrzykniki. Wykrzykniki.
Nie mogę.
To nie wiem.
A tu takie Lego Cyberpunk, kurwa. Dislike this stream, please. O co chodzi? Przecież miał być Cyberpunk, kurwa.
Kurwa głupie, halo.
Wait, wiem gdzie jest wiecie jakie jest najlepsze miejsce na informacje o Cyberpunku? To jest Discord cyberpunkowy, wait. Posłuchajcie, nawet to zalinkował... Słuchajcie, na Twitterze zalinkował to Cyberpunk. O co chodzi?
Kurwa, świetne pytanie, o chuj chodzi.
Oni to zalinkowali na Discordzie. Tego streama, gdzie jest kurwa Cyberpunk?
Pokaż mnie jeszcze w dużej wersji.
Co, nie widziałeś?
Nie, siebie, o, dziękuję. Trochę włoski się zepsuł.
Co tu się odpierdala?
Ja się
Ja nie wiem, czy to są po prostu jakieś wewnętrzne opóźnienia CD Projektu, że nie mogą zebrać ludzi do tego gadania i po prostu lecą z tym, co mogą, czy o co chodzi? Bo szczerze myślałem, że po prostu puścili, bo mieli gotowy film na Anthem i mogli go puścić gdzie chcieli, jakby ktoś na przykład nie przyszedł na gadanie. Ale jeżeli to podsyła Cyberpunk na swoim profilu i nadal tego nie ma, to coś to jest chyba mocno nie halo.
Ja się idę, aż ze złości napiję czegoś, tak więc zaraz.
Przynieś coś.
IGN Live at E3 2018 is presented by Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp in theaters July 6th.
Welcome back to IGN Live at E3 2018. It's official. The convention floor is open for business and IGN has claimed the best seat in the house. Also, we can get you the first dibs on the best games. Right now, Max Scoville is there standing by with a look at LEGO DC Supervillains.
And we are here with Danny Lee from IGN Israel and Arthur from TT Games.
Jezus Maria, dobra, to pominiemy, bo to jest kupa. Where is Cyberpunk? Kurwa, dislike'ować to wideo, ja pierdolę, o co chodzi? Czytamy dalej informacje o Cyberpunku.
In my head. Yo.